So, a while back we did a little talk about what exactly cyclocross is and how the races work. Now, with that understood, let's introduce ourselves to the major players of the coming season, and let's go a little more in depth. Through this video, I'll introduce any races you really should get to know, and exactly why you should indeed do so. These are the major players of the upcoming cyclocross season. When talking about cyclocross, there is only one name to start with: the youngest ever winner of a World Cup cross, the youngest ever world champion. Amongst women, she has the most World Cup victories of anyone, and also holds an outright record 8 cyclocross world titles, including the current women's world title. Of course, we're talking about the incredible Mariana Voss. At 35, Voss would ordinarily be in the twilight of her career, but she's Mariana Voss. She does not concern herself with such simple things as age. Since her breakthrough at about 16 in 2004, Voss has been one of the best racers in the world for pretty much every year, bar a blip in 2015. Over those years, she's carved out a palmarès that includes 13 world titles in 3 different disciplines, basically every possible prize in both cyclocross and road racing, including just earlier this year 2 stage wins, 5 days in the yellow jersey and the green jersey in the inaugural but not really inaugural Tour de France Femme. Voss, the only female crosser at her Jumbo-Visma team, generally picks and chooses her moments, last season only racing 10 times. However, in those 10 races, she won 6 times and never finished lower than 6th. It also included her winning both the Dutch national titles and that record 8th world title. You may think 6 wins in 10 is an ominous sign, a sign of somebody who needs to be knocked down a peg, similar to Red Bull and now Mercedes in the Formula 1, or Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool in the football. But please, do not even think that. Voss carries herself with such complete and utter grace that you cannot even begin to form those thoughts. See, you have pretenders to the throne, and then the kings and queens that sometimes reign for a long old time, but you also every once in a while have gods who stand utterly above anybody else, and Voss is one such occasion. Voss is not just cycling's biggest champion on the bike, but off the bike she may just be an even bigger one. Remember those Tour victories I mentioned earlier? Without Voss, that race probably doesn't exist. Hell, without Voss, women's cycling would be nowhere near what it is today, both through her direct actions and the way she is simply the perfect athlete and the perfect role model. Watching Voss race is to some extent an honour. It's the kind of thing you tell the grandkids. I watched the great Mariana Voss win. Of course, every great deity has a great foe, and throughout the years Voss has faced off against all kinds of faces: Daphne van den Brand, Hanka Koefernagel, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, Sanne Kant, Katie Compton, but the current big rival is the favourite to win all major classifications, the 2021 world champion Lucinda Brand. Where Voss picks her races, Brand races them all, and over the past 2 years she has dominated the major competitions, winning all 3 for the past 2 years running. Brand's biggest strength is her consistency. She rarely has a bad race, and even when she doesn't win, she's never far off doing so. Of Voss's 6 wins last year, Brand was second on 5 occasions, usually within a handful of seconds. Likewise, on 3 of Voss's 4 non-wins, Brand was the winner. Brand races for Balaza Trek, the cross department of Road World Tour outfit Trek Segafredo. She's joined both on the road and in cross by one of the most touted youngsters in the world at the moment, Sharon van Rijn. Van Rijn is coming off the back of undoubtedly her breakout year. She may have been disappointed with her 2nd place at the Under-23 World Championships back in January, but she quickly turned her anger into one hell of a year. She started it with a top 10 finish at Strade Bianche before making the Blue Young Riders jersey of the Women's World Tour her own. She's also claimed the white jersey of the Tour de France and was within seconds of becoming the Dutch national champion, only just finishing behind Rianne Marcus. The woman who just about beat Van Rijn to that world title back in January does not race on the road, not yet at least, but Peterson spends her time racing the mountain bike and doing so with a great deal of success. This year Peterson has raced 5 under-23 World Cups and podiumed every single one, taking one victory in Albstadt. Peterson also crowned herself the under-23 European champion recently. This winter she will once more turn out for Lucinda and hope to build on her 6 World Cup podiums. Last year she managed 5 second places but no victories. Maybe this year Peterson will finally go one better. Alongside her will be a woman who has certainly gone better. Celine del Carmen Alvarado, the world champion of 2020, didn't have the greatest season last year with persistent injury chasing her throughout the season, but with some off time to recover, Alvarado will want to be back at her very best, chasing victories at the highest level. Albus and de Koning also have 2 sister teams, all 3 falling under the umbrella of team managers the Roodhoofd brothers. Eco Krelan are the larger of the 2 outfits, nowadays going under the name Krelan Friestads. Housed in the team are largely the same riders of last year, including former 3-time world champion Sanne Kant, fellow Belgian and burgeoning sprinter Julie de Wilde, and former European champion Yara Kastelein. They also have one newly acquired signing, Frenchwoman turned Belgian Marion Norbert-Riberol. Norbert-Riberol has come over from the now defunct Star Casino outfit. Her former Star Casino teammate Anna Kay meanwhile has joined the 3rd Roodhoofd team, 777. She joins Annemarie Worst, Annick van Alphen and Inge van der Heijden, the Dutch trio sticking with the team from last year. The final juggernaut team is Paulshausen Bingoal, who will once again count on Denise Betsema and Fem van Empel. Betsema last year won the World Cup in Zonhoven and was consistently amongst the podium finishers, whilst Van Empel had a true breakout year, becoming only the 2nd teenager to ever win a World Cup round when she won in Val di Sol. She then had a 2nd in Flamanville, being the only other rider outside of Voss and Brand to win multiple World Cup rounds last year. Paulshausen have also attracted the signature of one of the major talents for the upcoming years. Junior Leoni Benfeld has signed a first professional deal with the squad. Benfeld's big junior rival was Wales's Zoe Backstedt. Backstedt won effectively every race last year, including becoming the youngest ever elite winner on Belgian soil when she won in Essen. Backstedt also claimed herself the junior world title with a commanding display. In September she announced the shock move to sign a first professional contract with EF Tibco Silicon Valley Bank, setting the stage for a new team to enter cyclocross. She'll join forces with well-established American cyclocross champion Clara Honsinger, ripe for 2 World Cup podiums last year and of course that incredible win atop the Koppenberg. The other hope from North America will be Canada's Magalichette. After years of not quite managing it, Rochette finally managed to perform to her abilities on European soil last year, taking 2 World Cup podiums throughout the season, something the viewing public will have greatly enjoyed. Rochette races as a privateer, seemingly on nothing more than pure good vibes. If you've come over from road cycling, Rochette is our Cecilia Trubb-Ludwig, and I mean that in the best possible way. And with Rochette we reach the single riders, the people who generally have no teammates throughout the season. Blanca Vass is the main one in this category. The multidisciplinary super talent still races for SD Works, and will largely be the only rider of the team competing in cyclocross, though Lotte Kopecky could well occasionally show up. Vass had a mega year last year, finishing 4th at the Olympics on the mountain bike, then finishing 4th at the Elite Road World Championships, before starting the cross season with a first World Cup podium, and then a first win in Overijse, the only non-Dutch win of the whole season in the World Cup, and then a silver medal at the European Championships too. After that though, Vass has kind of gone off the boil, struggling throughout the latter half of the season, also with a COVID infection during the World Championships. Her season has been one of little note, not being necessarily bad, but never looking that great either. Maybe Cross can kick her back into top gear this season. Someone who absolutely is in top gear is Sylvia Persico. The Italian has had an incredible year. In January she became Italian champion for the first time, before she stormed to a shock bronze at the World Championships. She kept that form up the entire year for the Valcar road team, including a top 10 at Strade Bianche in March, a top 10 finish at the Giro, and an incredible 5th place overall at the Tour de France. Persico looks set to move teams soon, with Valcar possibly going under at the end of the year, the likely location being Team UAE ADQ, though rumours of AG Insurance trying to sign the Italian also exist. It remains to be seen quite how much excitement either future team has for Persico Racing Cross, but as the Italian champion, I'm fairly confident she'll make a go of it again this year. At least I sure hope so, because she is quite the entertaining rider. Another rider we don't actually know too much about at the moment is France's mountain bike super talent Line Burquet. The French cross champion has spent the off-season dominating the under-23 mountain bike scene. She's raced 6 times, won 4 times, and podiumed every occasion. Burquet has seemingly left AS Bike, the team she was with last year, and if she ends up racing cross, for who exactly would remain a bit of a mystery. Burquet races mountain bike for Canyon, but the team has no presence outside of the discipline, so it's hard to see who or what she then races for. I'm sure she'll find a place to race though, at the very least to show off the national title that she holds. And at just 19, Burquet is probably my pick for the standout, breakout rider of the season, even if you could argue that she broke out last year. On the men's side, we're getting ourselves ready to play the same old waiting game. When do the big boys show up? Likely the first to dive into the field will be Britain's very first elite cyclocross world champion, Tompidcock. After the world title back in January, Pidcock ended his season in favour of preparing for the upcoming road season, and his goal of becoming only the second person to simultaneously hold the cyclocross, mountain bike and road world titles. With a Tour de France stage win on Alpe d'Huez under his belt, Pidcock is already focused on the 2 titles he's yet to claim, September's road world title being likely the hardest to win. This may interfere with his preparation for the cross season somewhat, but Pidcock will surely want to show off the rainbow bands. He hasn't had the opportunity to do so quite yet. Pidcock is naturally suited more to the mountain bike, and you see in cross he does better on the climbier and rockier courses. Due to his smaller stature, he struggles somewhat to push out the proper ones on the mud bath courses, but he'll always be there or thereabouts. Mathieu Vanderpool meanwhile had a torrid season last year. A lingering back injury saw Vanderpool only finish 1 cross all season. There were worries about Vanderpool's ability to keep racing outright, but nonetheless he managed to podium Milan-San Remo, win the Ronde van Vlaanderen for the 2nd time, and win the opening stage of the Giro d'Italia. Vanderpool post-injury has taken a more careful and sensible look at his racing, trying not to exhaust his body too much anymore. It remains to be seen how this impacts his crossing over the winter, but cross remains thoroughly important to Vanderpool. Expect him to show up to the races at the peak of the season, and looking at his history, expect him to probably win just about all of them as well. If we look back through history, there is usually only one person who can battle Mathieu Vanderpool, and that is of course 3-time world champion Wout van Aert. He has had quite the year to remember this year, winning Omloop Nieuwsblad and the E3 prize before getting COVID and missing the Tour of Flanders, and then still finishing 3rd at Paris-Roubaix. He then had that breathtaking Tour de France. It saw him win stages, take the green jersey, wear yellow, and win the Combativity Award. Wout last year rode arguably the most cross out of the big 3, but weirdly his Jumbo-Visma team tend to be the least enthused about cyclocross. Wout will almost certainly be back to race once more, but he has no real skin in the game for the upcoming season, not yet at least. Wout has always had the measure of Vanderpool on the messier, muddier courses, but outside of those the Dutchman has always been a little bit better. Maybe with his crazy year under his belt, Van Aert can finally unlock that last little thing that he really needs to compete with Vanderpool on all terrain. Outside of the big 3, I feel like most eyes will be on Quinten Hermans. The Belgian has been in the news throughout the season, partially due to his impressive season, peaking with an incredible shock 2nd place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and partially due to his year-long transfer saga he became embroiled in. As we now finally officially know, Hermans will finish his contract at Intermache Tormans and join Albus in de Koning. Presumably this will happen during the change of the year, as most contracts are done on a calendar year basis. At Alpecin, Hermans will very likely be their de facto leader throughout the season, with Vanderpool not racing everywhere. For what it's worth though, Hermans himself is focusing more on the road too, so it's entirely possible that he'll skip a few races too. Alpecin, for what it's worth, have a huge roster on the men's side and will likely once more be splitting up riders between their subsidiaries, Alpecin de Koning and Eco Crelan. Mathieu van der Poel and Quinten Hermans will ride for the main team, as will Johnny Vermeers, Niels van der Putten and David van der Poel. Meanwhile, Eco Crelan will be headed by 3 new signings. Joran Wizer and Emil Verstringen, first and second at the Under-23 Worlds, will be coming over from Tormans Cycling too. They will be mentored by a new signing from Paul Sausen Bingal, Laurens Sweek. Sweek has ended up being a sort of third wheel to Isabita and Van Turenhout at Paul Sausen, and so chose to leave now his contract is up. The Belgian will take up the role as the leader of the Eco Crelan team, almost certainly. Meanwhile, Paul Sausen will continue as they are. Defending World Cup winner Ely Isabita will likely line up as the favourite to take the overall once again, and he will share leadership duties with Michael Van Turenhout. Van Turenhout will be looking to add to his slowly growing list of World Cup wins. Meanwhile, at Balaza Trek, they look set to cut loose the Aerts brothers. They will be sticking with European champion Lars van der Haar and entrusting the young duo of Pim Ronhaar and Thibaut Nys to fill up the rest of the team. The Aertses meanwhile seem to be heading towards Intermache. They have lost most of their riders and as a result of some bizarre contract dealings, and so they need new stock, as only Corné van Kessel is not yet confirmed to be leaving. However, it does seem likely that he will be off too, to an as of yet unknown location as well. Doan and Thijs Aerts seem to be 2 signings Intermache are currently looking at. However, all will seemingly hinge on Doan being pronounced innocent in an ongoing doping investigation. Should he be found to be anything but innocent, the deal will seemingly be nullified, per the reporting of Wielerflits. This might go some way to explaining why the deal hasn't been announced yet, and why there is this degree of uncertainty surrounding Intermache and Tormans. And unfortunately, that uncertainty does not end at Intermache or with the Aerts brothers. There are a whole host of things currently unannounced, currently unknown to us, the common folk. Corné van Kessel is probably the most high profile name without a home yet. The UCI still have him registered at Tormans Intermache, but supposedly he's free to leave the squad. Where to is not yet known. Other riders, either without deals or having to work as privateers, would be the likes of Vincent Bastans, Dieter Sweek, Kevin Kuhn, and of course the Americans Curtis White and Kerry Werner. I'm also not sure, but secretly hopeful, that Clément Von Turini will expand his cross calendar a little again. Von Turini was a talented youngster and even managed some good World Cup placings some 5 years ago, but road commitments kept him out of competing. Last year he returned to cross in a serious fashion and even bagged a top 10 finish at the World Championships, so there is certainly reason for the Frenchman to still believe. And there you have it. That is a full-ish rundown of the majority of riders who will be racing cross throughout the next few months, the riders and the teams. I hope that this was informative. If you've got any more questions, feel free to ask that in the comments below. I imagine you probably do. I'll try and answer them. But I think you've probably figured out by now that it's not something I can really promise, as quite a lot of riders are quite unclear about their situations. I suppose we'll just see who turns up at Waterloo at the first round of the World Cup in a month or two's time. Meanwhile, if you want more cyclocross related content, then feel free to comment what you'd like to see down below, and feel free to subscribe, and the chance is fairly likely that I'll try and do something with whatever suggestion you give, or whatever other event might happen in our little cyclocross world in the upcoming months. Thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.